Welcome, sir.
Abhi, it is coming on. Is it coming on live stream now on this on the YouTube?
No, it's not. Let me just.
Srini, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Rajshekar. Prasad, good evening, good evening.
Very good evening. Nice to see you.
It is live, right? Kavi?
Sorry?
It is live, right? It is live right now, right? I can see it live. What it says unlisted. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you need to make it public. Your stream for Facebook has stopped, huh?
But now it should have come. Now it should come again.
Okay, yeah, it's up.
So now this thing is live, right? On the YouTube public.
Yeah.
This thing is live, right?
Yes.
On the YouTube public.
Yes, it's live.
Right.
Yeah.
This thing is live, right?
Yes.
On the YouTube public.
Yes.
Ajomi samani bhagu dissamana hridayani maha samana vastu bhomano yatha vastu sahasati Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
YouTubeல
shall I stop the video now and we can start with the testing? Nashagri, can you unmute?
Yeah, I can hear. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, fine.
I think we can test other people also. Jayaji, can you speak?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, we can hear you. Very good. So now Padminiji has not joined yet, right?
I'm here, KKG.
Okay.
Oh, you're joined. Okay, great, wonderful. Can you?
I want to see my video whether I'm in the correct position. Lighting is.
Yeah, I can see you. I can see you.
Lighting is okay.
Yeah, I did. So it is okay. So now just 1 minute to 8 o'clock.
Please admit everyone and Swamiji will be very prompt.
Swamiji has not yet joined, right?
Yeah, he will come promptly. So please admit everyone.
Yeah. I'm already here. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
yes. Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste.
Namaste,
During the
namaste.
talk, at least some of you keep your videos on so that I'll be able to.
Yeah, all of us will be on. So now 8 o'clock, over to Rashagarji.
Hari Om. Namaskaram. Welcome to Gita Jayanti. Jayanti's 25th anniversary program, International Gita Forum 2022.
Time is 8:00 p.m.
We shall start with an invocation prayer by Srimati Padmini Chandrasekhar. Srimati Padmini ji, please.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Namostu te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Duhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavaha Dogdha Gopala Nandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gitamritam Mahat Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishmadrona Tata Jayadratha Jala Gandhara Nilotpala Shalyagrahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotirna Khalu Pandavairananadi Kaivartakah Keshavaha Parasharya Vachasaroja Mamalam Gitartha Gandhotkatam Nanakyanaka Kesaram Harikatha Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shatpadairaharaha Pepiyamanam Muda Bhuyad Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pradvamsina Shreyase Mukam Karoti Vachalam Panghum Lankayate Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divya Istavaihi Vedai Sanga Padakramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Thank you, Batminiji, for that excellent rendition of the prayers. Swamiji, welcome to Singapore via Zoom. We'll be seeing much of you. But before we hear from you, we're very eagerly waiting for the talk. Now, I'd like to invite Mr. R. Jayachandran, Chairman, Hindu Endowments Board, Singapore, to deliver a welcome address. Gita Jayanti Group comes under Hindu Endowments Board, and therefore, Mr. R. Jayachandran has been instrumental in supporting the group. Mr. Jayachandran, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajshekar. Good evening. Thank you all for attending today's talk by Swamiji Sarvapriyananda. You're aware this is Gita Jayanti's Silver Jubilee year. During this year, we will have 4 talks delivered by Swamiji, and this is the first of them. His insights into the teachings of Bhagavad Gita always provide so much clarity and inspiration to the young and the old alike. Conditions becoming conducive, Swamiji will deliver the 4th lecture in person in Singapore in December 2022. Let us all pray that this becomes a reality. Hindu Endowments Board will lead and provide help and facilities for all the events throughout the year. Let me now thank Swamiji Sarvapriyananda ji for sparing the time for us. Notwithstanding the night and day difference between New York, where he lives in, and Singapore, he has always obliged us spontaneously whenever we made a request. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you all for attending today's program again. Thank you, Raja. It's back to you.
Chandran mentioned this is the first of the 4 talks by Swamiji. The next 3 talks, 2 of them will be via Zoom, will happen in June and September. In December, Swamiji will be in Singapore. We are all hoping for that and see him face to face. There are also other Gita activities throughout the year, this being the Silver Jubilee year. It's incredible that Gita Jayanti has brought over 22 organizations over 25 years. And please look out for the activities via Gita Jayanti Singapore's website and Facebook. Today, we are gathered via Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook to listen to Swami Sarvapriyananda ji on a topic, being good, transformative practices in Bhagavad Gita. I'm sure we'll be transformed at the end of Swamiji's talk, as I have been many times. Swami Sarvapriyananda is the President Swami of the Vedanta Society of New York, established by Swami Vivekananda in 1894. I suppose that's probably the first one outside of India. For those who are meeting him for the first time, he joined Ramakrishna Math in 1994, took his monastic vows in 2004. In 10 years, he was in the US, in Southern California, and now in New York. So it's my blessing and honor to welcome Swami Sarvapriyananda to address us on the topic, being good, transformative practices in Bhagavad Gita. Swamiji, please.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you very much for having me in this program. I congratulate the organizers of the Gita Jayanti for carrying on this wonderful, spreading the message of the Bhagavad Gita for 25 years now. And I'm very happy to be part of the beginning of the year-long celebrations of the Gita Jayanti for the Silver Jubilee of this program. And as you heard, we will meet again. So this is the first of 4 talks. And I was thinking, this talk will be foundational. We'll talk about something in the Bhagavad Gita, which is foundational for Vedanta. Vedanta, we know, it can be easily summarized in, we can put it very simply as the identity of Jiva and Brahma. We have heard of Tat Tvamasi, that thou art, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. So that's the goal that Vedanta aims at. Freedom from suffering, attainment of peace and bliss through the knowledge of our reality. But that's the goal. To reach that goal, to attain that realization, a transformation is required. Which is the purpose of all the sadhana. When we think about spiritual life, we think about spiritual practices. And these practices are meant to transform our personality, our minds, our samskaras. In the Bhagavad Gita, on different occasions, Sri Krishna has introduced these practices to Arjuna. But most powerfully, in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga, after talking about the highest Vedanta, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. O Arjuna, know me alone to be this one consciousness in all beings, that there is only one consciousness in all beings and you are identical to that. That is our higher self. That's the highest teaching. That is the meaning of Tat Tvamasi, that thou art, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. But immediately after that, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna about practices, about what is to be done to become ready and fit for this enlightenment. And I think these are things that we can immediately take up and understand it and bring into practice in our own lives. In the 13th chapter, Sri Krishna actually gives us 20 practices. Let me read out the relevant verses and then we'll go a little deeper into that. This is chapter 13, verse number 7 to 11. Verses 7 to 11. Amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham स्थैर्यम् आत्मा विनिग्रह इंद्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहंकार एव च जन्म मृत्यु जरा व्याधि दुःख दोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिरनभिष्वङ्ग पुत्रदार गृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जनसंसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वम् तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानम् इति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानम् यदतो अन्यथा. So in these few verses, Sri Krishna has given an answer to a question which often comes when you study Vedanta. When you study Vedanta, Panchakosha Viveka, Avasthatraya Vichara, then Rigdrishya Viveka, and so on, all these methods to realize who we are, to answer the question, who am I? After hearing all that, often a question will come, I understand all this, but what am I to do now? What is to be done? And Sri Krishna is answering the question here. What are we to do? What is the sadhana to be done? So this is most important. If you see these verses, if you count, what has he said? There are 20 practices here. Today we shall make a beginning. We shall take a look at some of them and then introduce the most important ones. And these are, it looks like a series of qualities, humility, unostentatiousness, harmlessness, and so on. But it is actually not a series of qualities. It doesn't help much to give you a series of qualities that you should be non-violent, that you should be truthful, that you should be peaceful. Well, you should be this, we all know this. But what am I to practice? So these are action words. These are things which we can actually start doing practically, all of us, in all our, wherever we are, in whatever circumstance we are. Let me make a beginning. The first set of practices in the 7th verse. Amanitvam madam bhitvam ahimsa kshanti rajavam. Amanitvam. This lack of or rising above ego, pride. There is this story about a Zen student who goes to a Zen master asking for knowledge, and the master starts teaching him about Zen. Whatever the master says, the student says, oh, I know this, I read it in that book. Or this one, yes, I had heard it in that lecture. So whatever the master is saying, the student says, I know this, I know that one. After some time, Japanese master, he said, join me for tea. They have this elaborate tea ceremony. So he starts pouring tea into the cup and keeps on pouring. The cup is full, then the tea is overflowing. And the student says, stop. The cup is overflowing, there is no more space. And the teacher said, precisely, until you empty your cup, how will you taste my tea? So until we empty our cup, how will we taste the tea that Krishna is giving us? How will we taste Vedanta? This mana, there is no adequate English translation. You can translate it as pride, arrogance, a sense of a superiority complex. All of these we can put mana. Mana in itself is not bad. It's good to have confidence, self-esteem, as it is said. But here it is something more than self-esteem. It is the feeling that I know, I am better than you, I understand. This attitude is harmful. The moment I say I know, I understand, I get it, I am better than you, my learning will stop at that point. And if learning stops, Vedanta will not work. Vedanta is above all a knowledge system. It is spiritual knowledge, it is jnana, and it is being transmitted from the guru to the disciple. If I have mana, this feeling, this internal feeling of arrogance that I know, then the whole purpose of approaching Vedanta is defeated. So amanitvam, in a subtle way, what happens is, we might all, when we listen to this, we might feel, yes, I have reverence for the Guru, I have reverence for Vedanta, I have reverence for Krishna, I understand that. This is not my problem. At least I may have other defects, but this is not my defect. No, one must be careful here. Even though outwardly I may not have any sense of superiority or pride or the feeling that I know, if it is internally there, how subtly it works. I'll give you a deeper insight into this. If I have this mana, what happens is, the knowledge which is transmitted to me, I will automatically try to fit it, sort of enclose it into the limits of what I already know. You see how this works? I feel somewhere deep within, I have a good understanding. And the moment the knowledge is transmitted to me by the Guru, by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads, internally what I do is, yes, I know this. This is that thing which I had read, that thing which I had understood. So the student fits, the knowledge transmitted by the teacher into his already existing framework, and thereby misses out the new, the unique. See, that is why we have gone to the teacher, to know something that we do not know already, to realize something that we have not yet realized. That opportunity is lost. There is this Greek myth of the Procrustean bed. So Procrustes was this fellow who would invite people to stay over, and he had this bed which was a small size, and when people would try to sleep in that bed, to fit people in that bed, he would cut off their feet so that they can fit in that bed. What we do is to fit this knowledge, whatever we are getting, into our existing framework, we cut it down so that it becomes part of our already the knowledge structure which is already there. Thereby we don't learn anything new. So amanitvam, one must be careful that I have come here, the teacher is Sri Krishna. One of our very senior Swamis, I have not met him ever, Bhaskareshwaranandaji, who was the Swami in our Nagpur Ramakrishna mission. So when he would start teaching, he was an enlightened master. When he would start teaching Vedanta, the Gita, to the students, he would say a couple of things. I found this in the notes of the old students, of the old monks. Very useful things in this beginning the study of Gita. Two things. One is that never forget who is teaching. Who is teaching? Sri Krishna is teaching. He's an avatara. He is Narayana himself. He's not a professor. He is not a research scholar. See, with a research scholar or professor, there we engage, we can have a debate, we can agree, disagree. With Sri Krishna, the thing is entirely different. God is himself teaching us something. Keep that in mind. Whom are we listening to? The second thing that Swami said was, when you study the Gita, keep in mind your prayojana. Prayojana means, why have I come here? What is the purpose for which I have come to Gita study? The purpose is dukkha nivritti, ananda prapti, moksha, the highest purpose of human life. I have come here to become enlightened and free. I have come here for the same purpose that Prince Siddhartha went and became the Buddha. I have come here for the same purpose that Narendranath Datta went to Sri Ramakrishna and became the Swami Vivekananda. God realization is my goal. Moksha is my goal. Nirvana is my goal. For that purpose, I have come to the Bhagavad Gita. So keep it vibrating in you when you listen to the Gita. This will take care of that problem of that mana. So the first practice which Sri Krishna tells Arjuna about is amanitvam. Be careful that mana does not enter into your Vedantic study. The second one is adambhitvam. Dambha here, it's related to mana, but it's a variation. It is ostentatiousness. That means showing of religiosity. Shankaracharya in his commentary says dharma dhvajitvam. Dhvaja means flag. So flying the flag of dharma. I am holier than thou. I am more religious than you. I have read the Gita and all the other texts. I have memorized this so many shlokas. I do so many pujas and parayanams. So I may not say it openly to you, but internally I feel that sense of superiority. This again is deeply harmful to the Vedantic student. So the absence, let us be careful that this is not does not come into our lives. Sri Ramakrishna says the sattvic sadhaka is the one who sits under his mosquito net. So if I here in New York, if I say mosquito net, people will not understand why will you sit under a mosquito net. But in India, you have to remember, the mosquito is a problem. At night, when everybody has gone to sleep, you sit up under your mosquito net, nobody can see you, and you repeat the name of God for long hours deep into the night with devotion, with love, with focus. This is a sattvika sadhaka whom nobody knows about. Your sadhana is in secret. So, and outwardly maybe quite an ordinary, behave like an ordinary person. This person has overcome dambha, the display of religiosity. I remember in the Bible, Jesus tells his followers that when you give something in charity, let it be in secret. So your Father in heaven will see that, and your reward will also be there. Those who give publicly to be known by people and praised by people, they will have their reward. That means they will become famous. People will think that he is a great, charitable person, philanthropic person. But the spiritual benefit will not come. For the spiritual benefit to come, I will do my spiritual practices, not just giving, meditation, prayer, puja, Vedantic study. So it is for my own spiritual development, not to show off to others. Adambhitvam. Little deeper meaning of this adambhitvam. It is being careful not to claim completion, perfection, enlightenment when we are not yet enlightened. It is safer to say that you are not enlightened even if you are, than to say that you are enlightened if you are not yet enlightened. And this is a peculiar problem in this day and age when everything is available. In earlier days, you see, Vedanta is very different from a missionary religion. Vedanta does not go out and preach. One sadhu in Uttarakhand in Himalayas said that आजकल के महात्मा जी तो सब विज्ञापन लगा के वेदांत सिखाते हैं. These days the Mahatmas, they put up advertisement, posters, Vedanta class, come and join. But that was not the original tradition of Vedanta. I'm not saying that one should not do a little bit of publicity. At least people should know such a thing is available. But it was not a pushy religion. It was not a missionary converting religion. The idea was these are the highest, most precious teachings, and they will be useful if I have a desire to learn, if I have an inquiry. I come with an inquiry, then the teacher gives Vedanta. Gives this highest teaching. Otherwise, what happens is something that I see, especially in this country, here in the United States. Any number of enlightened masters are walking around. Now, some of them may be genuine, but the problem is the moment we have some kind of spiritual understanding, some insight, maybe some spiritual experience also, immediately I decide now I am an enlightened person. Now I shall go on a lecture tour and book talk and make disciples and go around. This was well understood in India long ago. The idea was, if you have a spiritual insight, if you have some kind of spiritual awakening, what should you do? You should do more sadhana. Until one is a full-fledged Jivan Mukta, one should, see, once we have a spiritual insight, once we have some kind of spiritual awakening, then you are very fortunate. Then spirituality is real for you. Then one should stay with it. One should cultivate it further. Instead of immediately declaring, I am a world teacher, Jagat Guru now. Now I shall go around teaching people. Don't do that. That is a sign of dambha. A deeper, this is a more subtle analysis. Not to claim perfection, not to claim enlightenment when one is not yet perfect or enlightened. Much better, even if you are perfect or enlightened, highly advanced, not to claim it. To claim that I am on the path, I am a spiritual seeker, which is basically true for almost all of us, except very rare few people in each generation. They are there, but they are very few. I remember it's a wonderful experience to see a very great Swami who has passed away now, Swami Ramananda Saraswati. I saw him in Haridwar many years ago. So one of his disciples, a gentleman, a householder, he had a kidney transplant. So he was telling the Swami about it. And the Swami, who did not know much about modern medical science or anything, he was very curious. So how does it work? What is it? And this gentleman said, I have these medicines to take and this diet to observe. And the Swami was interested. He said, why? You've already, that organ has been transplanted. Now, why do you have to follow these restrictions and this diet and so on? Then the gentleman said, the doctor explained to me, Swami, if I don't follow these restrictions, if I don't take these medicines, what will happen is the new organ will not be accepted by the body. The body will reject the new organ. So to accept the body, to integrate the new organ and make it function in this body, that will not happen unless I follow these restrictions. Second, the benefits of having this new organ will not flow, it will not start functioning, I will not start getting the benefits of it. And third, ultimately what will happen is, if I'm not careful, the body will reject that organ, and the new organ, which I've got after so much difficulty, it will die then, and the whole exercise will be futile. So the Swami was very excited to hear this. He looked around at the other people who had gathered and said, this is it. If you think you have understood something in Vedanta, if you think you have got some awakening, some spiritual experience, then what should you do? It is like that new kidney which has been transplanted. You should immediately redouble your practices. What practices? Same Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, same Japa and Dhyana, same Parayana, all those practices. Make it more intense. Otherwise, what will happen? He says the same three things will happen. First, this new knowledge, this new awakening will not be integrated in your personality, like that kidney. Second, the benefit of this new knowledge will not flow in your life. You will not get the peace, the strength, the joy, the fulfillment which you expect from Vedantic realization. And third, this new knowledge will not die. If it's a genuine spiritual awakening, it will not die, but it will get covered over. So if you don't cultivate it, if you don't stay with it, that is the danger of dambha, that immediately becoming confident, super confident that I have got something, I am advanced. Don't do that. That's a dangerous thing to do. Adambhitvam. And third, ahimsa. Not to hurt people. Indeed, physically, of course, one should not hurt people. Then in words, by saying, these days there are hardly anybody who goes around hitting people, unless it is New York subway, then there are a lot of problems are there. But otherwise, generally you don't walk around punching people, especially in this highly disciplined society where you live in Singapore. But often we are violent with our language. We say nasty things when we feel angry or unhappy. Don't say it. It is very hurtful. And later you may regret. Often we regret. We say things in anger. What we say in anger, later we regret. But when the damage is done, those who have felt hurt, they will remember it, unfortunately. So better not to say harsh words, hurtful words. And thinking, at the level of thinking also, don't think badly of others. Don't think violently about others or angrily about others. When you light the fire of himsa, of anger in one's heart, what happens is, it's like a fire, it will burn the place where it is lit. Before the fire burns other things, it will first, where you light it, that place will be burnt first. So if you light the fire of, if we light the fire of anger in our own hearts, we get burnt. Swami Vivekananda said, only a fool cannot get angry, but the wise person does not get angry. Anger is there in a normal human being, anger will be there. Why not? If there is something wrong that you see, there will be a reaction. But don't give in to that. It comes, but then you have a choice that whether I shall nurture it or stop it. Ahimsa, in thought, word, and deed. Then Kshanti, forbearance, tolerance. This is like titiksha, is one of the qualities necessary for a Vedantic student. If we do not tolerate, if we do not forbear, if we do not forgive, spiritual life is very difficult. If I want to punish one person for what that person has done, then I will hurt that person. For that, again, I will be punished by another person, and that person will be punished by another one. So this hurting, anger, this goes on, this series goes on. Whereas, moment somebody does something wrong to you, if you immediately forbear it and mentally forgive, that whole series is stopped right there. The series of violence and counter-violence is stopped right there. One might say, no, but that person did wrong, I suffered. Fine, can you absorb the suffering? So why should I absorb it? But you do absorb it from people you love, isn't it? If children misbehave, grandchildren misbehave, it is nothing to you. You find it amusing, or at least you immediately forgive with a smile. The same love one must extend to all of creation. After all are the children of God. If I love God, if I love Sri Krishna, but Sri Krishna himself has said, I am in the hearts of all beings. So how can I, hurt another being where Sri Krishna himself resides? So the practice is to stop this series of violence and counter-violence right there by forgiving. It is very helpful in spiritual life and it increases strength. The ability to withstand other people doing wrong to you and letting it be, not reacting in anger. I remember this monk who was in charge of a very big kitchen in our main monastery. Hundreds of people had to be fed daily. Very difficult job. And there were a lot of people working for you there. Now, I never saw this monk angry, resentful, reacting. So I asked him, how under such difficult circumstances, day and night you are working, month after month, year after year, and never see you angry, Swami? So he said, I used to get angry. Many years ago, when I was a young monk, one day I was very unhappy, not angry, but unhappy, miserable about somebody had said something nasty to me. One senior monk looked at me, old monk, and he said, why are you unhappy? I said, such and such person has said this. And that old monk did like this. What is that? I asked him, and that monk said to him that there's a little bit of dust you have, a speck of dust, just as you flick it off. At the end of the day, whatever is accumulated, resentment, unhappiness, feelings of dislike, discomfort, anxiety, fear, all of that, you flick off completely. And he said, I started practicing that. And then I was thinking that I can see that we can all see the result of that, that today you are in the midst of pressure also, you don't react like that. Another Swami was there, very wonderful Swami in Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture, Swami Lokeshwaranandaji. Wonderful Swami, many years ago. Very calm, very sweet. So one of the Swamis who was close to that Swami asked him that, did you ever see him angry? He said, yes, I had the same question. I asked him, Swamiji, do you ever get angry? And he said, I used to, but then one day I looked at the earth. Whenever I feel angry, he said, whenever I feel angry, I look at the earth, I look downwards. So Swami told me that often, sometimes in difficult circumstances, we would see Swami Lokeshwaranji looking at the ground. Look downwards. What is he looking at? Look at the earth. How much torture and exploitation it endures calmly. How much we are doing to this earth, we are exploiting it, and calmly, like a mother, the Mother Earth is continuously giving to her children. So I see how much it is bearing and forbearing, and so my anger goes away. This is Shanti, forbearance. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that there is no quality equal to forbearance. In spiritual life, even in family life, in corporate life, in community life, if you can forbear, if you react to every little thing, life will become a hell. So why should I let things pass? Other people are behaving badly. Yes, but if you behave badly in response to that, then your own life will become a hell. Be enlightened, selfish enlightenment. Enlightened selfishness, sorry. Enlightened selfishness. Be selfish for your own purpose, for your own peace of mind. You forbear. You'll see the situation will change very soon. Ahimsa and Kshanti go together. Ahimsa is where you do not give cause for violence and unhappiness in society. And Kshanti is where you absorb the violence and unhappiness in society so that it does not spread. They go together. So Sri Krishna says, Ahimsa, Kshanti, Arjavam. Arjavam means straightforwardness, simplicity. Swami Vivekananda was asked, how should we live in life? He said, live with utmost simplicity, have the simplicity, utmost simplicity and seriousness. So utmost simplicity means childlike simplicity and utter seriousness. Swami Vivekananda embodied it, If you look at his face, you read his life, very simple, like a boy, like a little boy. internally very serious. What we do is, we are just the opposite. We live lives which are we are very complex internally, and our lives externally are very superficial. So Swami Vivekananda says just the opposite: simplicity and seriousness, not complexity and superficiality. So internally, people become very complicated, and the life that they are spending hours and hours on social media, partying, life is going away, time is going away. He says reverse it. If you want to be a spiritual person, just the opposite. Be as simple as a child, and utterly serious about spirituality, about the goal of human life. So Arjavam means this straightforwardness, simplicity. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that purity, simplicity is a very rare quality. A person becomes simple in his last life. This utter simplicity is a sign of that this is your last life. This is moksha is waiting for you. Enlightenment is waiting for you. I read a saying somewhere: nothing confounds the clever so much as simplicity. People say that if I'm simple, Swamiji, people will take advantage of me. But it's just the opposite. Clever people, sly people, cunning people become utterly confused when they see simplicity. Not foolishness. Foolishness and simplicity are very different. The foolish person neither understands himself nor others. The simple person, truly simple person, understands himself very well and understands the other also, but does not deal with them in a harsh way. It's like the difference between childishness and childlike. One should not be childish, but one should be childlike. So Arjavam, straightforwardness, simplicity. Amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam, acharya upasanam, shaucham, stairyam, atma vinigraha. Now, acharya upasanam. Literally, it means worship of the acharya. But what does it actually mean? See, Vedanta is teaching you something that you cannot see with the senses. Brahman, or ultimate reality. With senses, you can see. The eyes, you can see form. With ears, you can hear sound. You can taste. You can touch. You can smell. But Brahman, the ultimate reality, cannot be seen with these eyes. It cannot be heard. Cannot be smelled, tasted, touched. So it's not available to sense experience. It is not even available to any other source of knowledge. I'm talking about epistemology here. How do we know something? You cannot know it through inference or through any other source of knowledge. It can only be known through Shruti, through the teachings of the Upanishads. And Bhagavad Gita, which we are reading, is entirely based on the teachings of the Upanishads. It's knowledge. It's a knowledge system which is transmitted by a teacher. That is the importance of the guru in Indian spiritual traditions. Guru is the one who removes darkness. That's literally the meaning of the word guru. What darkness? It removes the darkness of ignorance. What ignorance? Not the ignorance of, say, I don't know Sanskrit or Chinese, or I don't know physics or mathematics. Not that ignorance. It removes the ignorance about our real nature. That I am Brahman. I am not just this limited creature fated to be born yesterday and die tomorrow. Not that's only the surface story. There's a much deeper level, a spiritual dimension to my being that I don't know. And for that, we need a teacher. Knowledge is transmitted by a teacher. Even today, basic knowledge can be, you can get it from a book, you can go to a school and learn. But any kind of advanced learning, notice when you go to kindergarten, there's a whole lot of little kids sitting, and one teacher can teach all of them. And the same teacher teaches you language and a little bit of mathematics and music. But when you are in the PhD level, it can't be like that. You have maybe one guide and one student maybe. So then the role of the teacher becomes very important. It cannot be a mass thing. You go to a teacher. I read this very inspiring story about the astrophysicist Subramaniam Chandrasekhar, and he used to teach. The inspiring story which I read was he had 2 students only at one time, and he would go for classes for guiding them in the research work. Even in the midst of a snowstorm, he would drive to the university to teach those 2 students. And the story is that those 2 students went on to get Nobel Prize before him, both of them. So at that level, you need a teacher, Acharya, the one who will transmit this knowledge, not only in the textual form, not only as Upadesha teaching, but also demonstrated through life. So you need this close contact with the teacher. This is called Acharya Upasana. The very word Upasana literally means asana. Asana means to sit. This, you sit, upa means close. You sit close to the teacher. That means you learn in close proximity with the teacher. We have a word for this. It's called the apprentice system. Apprentice system is, you want to learn some higher skill, you must stay with a master. You want to learn tennis at the international level, you must learn from a coach who is an international level player. Similarly, we go to the guru not just to learn a text, but also to imbibe life. So one flame can light another flame. Spirituality can actually be given. Like you give a flower to somebody else, spirituality can be given from one living master to another, to the student, from master to student. So Acharya Upasanam, literally Upasanam, sitting near the Acharya. More deeper meaning, sitting near the Acharya, not just physically, sitting near the knowledge of the Acharya. So I am bringing my mind close to the mind of the Acharya, so that the transmission can take place. The knowledge which is there can become mine now. Even deeper meaning, deepest meaning. Upasana means that is as a realized master. This master has realized Aham Brahmasmi, is one with God. That experience, that realization, Upasana means sitting near that realization. So that realization will become my realization also. This is the deepest meaning of Acharya Upasana. Now, so that you will not say you are making up your own interpretation, so I will give you this simple interpretation also. Acharya Upasana means seva of the Guru. One goes to the Guru and serves the Guru, so that this deep bond is set up. It enables the transmission of knowledge from the Guru to the disciple. So seva of the Guru. And another connected meaning of Acharya Upasanam is your spiritual master. You regard spiritual master as God in our tradition. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara. So what does it mean? Does it mean this human being is God? No. Guru is a manifestation of the Anugraha Shakti of Bhagavan. Bhagavan himself appears in the form of the Guru and transmits spiritual knowledge. Anugraha Shakti means grace. Grace of God is manifested in the form of Guru. Therefore, we are actually worshipping God. When I say I bow down to Guru, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, I am bowing down to God, not to an individual. So that is the meaning of Acharya Upasana. So all these meanings are there. Acharya Upasana. Shaucham. Shaucham, cleanliness. We all know the saying, cleanliness is next to godliness, which we Hindus, we observed more in the exception than as a rule. You'll see at one time, Hindu temples, it became known for the accumulated dirt. People have come and given offerings, poured water and given flowers and leaves, and they keep on accumulating. And the whole temple looks shabby and dirty. No, that is luckily beginning to change across India. It's a different picture now. Being dirty, physically dirty, is not equal to being holy. Physical cleanliness actually engenders a feeling of purity in the mind. That's why it's necessary to keep your surroundings clean, to do your spiritual practices in clean surroundings, in pleasant surroundings, in uplifting and sublime surroundings. Keep your dress clean. That sometimes Guru will give the instruction that the cloth which you wear for meditation, japa and meditation should be a separate dress. And so what happens is, a separate dress if you put on that's used only for puja, only for meditation, then it actually, these are very strong psychological supports. Our mind is a very delicate thing. It requires some support, all different kinds of support. So purity, physical purity. That's why I say you take a bath before going for the puja. But not just physical purity. It must be purity in body, purity in speech, and purity in mind. Swami Ranganathananda ji, who was the president of our Ramakrishna mission several years back, in his childhood, it is a story he told about his childhood, growing up in Kerala, when he was a schoolboy. One day he learnt a bad word at school and he came to home and he said it in front of his mother. And his mother scolded him sharply, said, "My boy, Saraswati, Devi Saraswati dwells on your tongue. If you use bad words, she will never come on your tongue again." So he said that, just that saying, that thing which my mother told me, I remember till when he said this, he was in his 90s. From that day onwards, never I used any kind of harsh language, abusive language ever again in my life. Purity in speech. What am I saying? And then purity in mind. See, by a soap and a shower, you can get physical purity. But when shaucham, when it is being used by Krishna, purity in mind means a sense of holiness. There is a word in Sanskrit, difficult to translate in English, pavitrata. It's there in almost every Indian language, pavitra or pavitrata. It means holiness, purity, holiness. A combination of these two words can give you some sense. Pavitrata. So physical cleanliness is one thing, important, but pavitrata is of a higher order. We all have felt it. When you feel pure and sublime, when you listen to a bhajan, when you spend some time in a temple watching a puja or an abhishekam being done, you just sit quietly and repeat the mantra, the name of God, Narayana or Krishna or Rama. After some time, you feel this upliftment, especially in the company of the advanced spiritual practitioners. A Mahatma who is truly spiritual, spiritually enlightened, if you go near such a person, you clearly feel the difference in yourself. And what difference you feel is this pavitrata. So this is the deeper meaning of shaucham, not just taking a shower and with soap and water. So at the physical level, at the verbal level, and mental level, pavitrata. This is something that a sadhaka should cultivate all the time. This feeling of purity, this feeling of holiness inside. Stairyam. Shaucham, stairyam, atma vinigraham. Stairyam is steadiness. It is a quality very much lacking in today's spiritual life. The morning one thing, afternoon another thing, and evening another thing. I saw this, I am practicing this kind of meditation, maybe Buddhist mindfulness. Then I saw a nice lecture on Kashmiri Shaivism. Now I take up Kashmir Vijnana Bhairava Kashmiri Shaivism meditation. And then next I hear about Tantra or Vedantic Nididhyasana, Aham Brahmasmi. I take that up next. Stairyam, steadiness is essential. Steadiness in spiritual pursuits. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that a man was digging in a place for water. And it's hard work. He dug in the soil for a little while, no water. He got disheartened, and then he thought maybe it is there. And he went to another spot and he started digging. There also, after a little bit, he stopped and he went to a third spot and started digging. At the end of the day, he had gone to several spots. Nowhere he found water. But if in one of those spots, if he had dug deeply enough, he would have found water. Similarly, in spiritual life, it's important. You can read everything, you can know everything, very good, you should. But you must have your own practice. What practice? It could be your family practice, it could be what you have been initiated by your guru. Hold on to one thing. Don't keep changing it. That's like going digging for water in different places. Take up one practice and hold on to it. One tradition and hold on to it. Say, I have been in my community, in my family, I have been a Vaishnava for many generations. Very good. Then hold on to that. If it's a family tradition, then there'll be an unconscious, a subconscious conditioning in the mind. Take advantage of it. You can progress faster along the lines of your own tradition, your own religion, your own community practice, because in Hinduism we have a wide diversity, huge diversity. It's the most diverse religion in the whole world by far. So many traditions are there, many practices, many forms of the divine, names of the divine are there. Be steady in your practice. Another thing that I see, especially among us Hindus, is that you go into the puja, the shrine of any household, sometimes you will see it's a veritable museum. All the devas and devatas and devis are there from all tirthasthanas. And then if you ask, what do you do? I feel that I don't want to annoy or make any of the deities angry, so I have to do a little bit of worship for all. Anxiety, that which is supposed to give you peace of mind, joy, strength of mind, is now producing anxiety and fear. What a ridiculous situation. God will not be annoyed if you don't put a little flower and chant a mantra. Not at all. God is there to help you. God is there to help us. So this is another peculiarity which people in other religions may not have so much. Because of our very diversity, we may feel sometimes pressurized that all the gods and goddesses must be there in my... Not necessary. You can keep, but your worship should be focused. This is the question, this is the concept of Ishta Devata. Ishta Devata is the chosen ideal. Your guru, or in your community, or in your family, you have a chosen ideal. It could be Krishna, it could be Rama, it could be Durga or Kali, whatever it is. Focus on that. Not 101 different practices, different deities. So Sthairiam, steadiness. This is the deeper meaning of steadiness. But there also, it is physical level. Those who cannot sit still. I remember once we were studying Vedanta many years ago. This was more than 25 years ago. And the Swami who was teaching us, he was sitting on a cot, we were sitting on a mat, and we are the other students, we were learning. One of my fellow students, another brahmachari, was sitting and shaking his leg unconsciously, just as a habit. And then Swami immediately scolded, "Stop that! What are you doing?" This physical shaking of the body, this also is a sign of the restlessness of the mind. So Sthairiam, steadiness in body, steadiness in our spiritual practice. It's something we pick up and then we continue throughout life. That generates power. A variety of different practices, especially this day and age. You listen to another teacher, you read a new book, latest book, Barnes and Noble, you go and pick up latest self-help book or spirituality book. Very nice. I will start practicing this. And that will be replaced next week with another idea. And third week, everything will be given up. That is lack of steadiness. So one thing should be practiced steadily for years and years. That gives result. Sthairiam Atma Vinigraha. Control of the senses. Senses and the mind. The Kathopanishad compares the human body to a chariot, and the senses are the like the horses. And the horses are controlled with the reins. The mind is the reins, and the charioteer, the driver of the chariot, is compared to the buddhi. And you are the passenger of the chariot. The Atma, Jivatma is the passenger. Where is the chariot going? The goal is to go to moksha, to become enlightened. So the chariot, that is the spiritual journey. There's a very beautiful imagery which is used in the Kathopanishad. Now it says, Upanishad says, if the horses are not well trained, then they will lead you to ruin. What is the road on which the horses are running? Sense objects. So eyes is the horses which is running on the road of forms. Ears are the horses which are running on the road of sound. Like that. Sense objects are the road and the senses are the horses. And if they are not well trained, if they are not well controlled, they will lead you to disaster. They will run after what they like and they will lead you to disaster. The Upanishad says the horses have to be trained. That means the senses have to be kept under control. The mind has to be mindful, manaska. In fact, in one of your neighboring countries, in Vietnam, a very great Buddhist monk just passed away recently, Thich Nhat Hanh, who actually sort of kick-started the mindfulness revolution here in USA. I strongly recommend his book, The Miracle of Mindfulness. It's a classic, spiritual classic. How to be mindful from moment to moment. Upanishads, thousands of years ago, samanaska, mindful. Literally, the word is mindful. So the senses have to be controlled. The mind has to be trained in mindfulness, training of attention. Then the buddhi, charioteer, driver. Driver has to know where you are going. You have to program the GPS before you start. So the driver has to be informed with Vedantic knowledge. The buddhi must be clear, conviction, clarity must be there in Vedanta. Mind must be mindful, attention, training of attention, focus, and the senses must be kept under control. This is called Atma Vinigraha. Then only the chariot will take you to the goal. You will realize your true nature, that you are Brahman. Indriyartheshu Vairagyam. This is connected to Atma Vinigraha. Indriyartheshu Vairagyam means dispassion for the objects of the senses. Why is it that we do wrong things? Why is it that we are not able to do what we want to do? It is because of the sensory system, which is very powerful and which runs after what it likes. This is a whole set of raga dvesha, strong likes and dislikes. And our life runs on these two, likes and dislikes. I want this, this money, this amount of these gadgets, this house, this relationship, this so many Facebook likes. So all of these things which I want in life, I become focused on that this will give me happiness. Till now it has not. Little bit of happiness comes and it disappears. Whether you're 20 years old or 40 years old or 80 years old, one lesson we all learn is whatever we did throughout our lives, whatever we did to make ourselves happy, how much has it worked? At this moment, after all my lifelong efforts at my own happiness, how much happiness have I accumulated? Not much. It is fleeting. There's no permanent satisfaction. There's no permanent satisfaction in chasing things in the world. Therefore, restrain the senses. The author Somerset Maugham, he said that if you single-mindedly chase pleasure, very soon you find nothing pleasing anymore. There is, sometimes I conduct Gita classes here in neighboring cities near New York. So one gentleman was saying that actually, Swamiji, there are many people here who would be interested in the Gita. But many of them, when I say once in a month Gita class, please come, no time. Because every weekend, busy, some party is there. Manhattan, very busy place. They say that New York or Manhattan is a city that never sleeps. So the city that never sleeps means always busy. Throughout the week, busy earning money, and then weekend, busy partying. When will you get time for Gita, for poor Krishna, who's waiting to tell you the highest knowledge which will really give you happiness? This mad pursuit of raga dvesha, which has till now failed to give you happiness, will not give you happiness in future. Therefore, Krishna says, Indriyartheshu Vairagyam. Vairagya is a powerful practice in spiritual life. Sri Ramakrishna tells the story about the three drunkards who were drunk at night going home. They got on a boat to cross the river and they started rowing. And they rowed and rowed. When early morning sun rose, they found they were still on the bank of the river. They had not made any progress at all. Why? They had forgotten to untie the boat. So they were rowing all night long in the same place. Untying the boat, this is Vairagya. Indriyartheshu Vairagya. You make a mental note to yourself that these things which I chase in the world, there's no harm in having taking care of a family and having a job. You must. But remember, things in the world, people in the world, money, possessions, they're all necessary, but they will not give you ultimate fulfillment. They are all temporary, and they come, and everything comes and goes. Nothing will last forever. So, indriyartheshu vairagyam, dispassion. This is untying the boat so the boat can sail. Dispassion. Indriyartheshu vairagyam, anahankara. The rising above the ego. See, the ego is a function of the mind. It coordinates the activities of body and mind. But when we become identified by the ego, it leads to egotism. One Swami put it nicely. We go to take a trip in the ahankara. It's a play on words in Sanskrit and English. Aham means I, and car means the English car, C-A-R, car. So I sit in the car and go to and take a trip. Ego takes me for a trip. You are not the ego. Whole point of Vedanta is to teach you that you are not the ego. Shankaracharya sings, Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. What am I? I am pure consciousness, bliss. I am of the nature of Shiva. I am of the nature of Shiva. But before saying that, what is the first line? Mano buddhya hankara chittani naham. You have to disidentify from mana. Mana naham. I am not the mind. Buddhi naham. I am not the intellect. Mind is there. Intellect is there. Just as shirt is there, cloth is there, jacket is there, but I am not the jacket. Intellect is there, mind is there, chitta, the memory is there, but I am not the memory. Then manobuddhya hankara chittani naham. Ahankara na aham. Look at the interesting paradoxical statement. Ahankara na aham. I am not I. Ahankara means I, ego. I am not the I. Doesn't it sound contradictory? I am not I. What does it mean? This ego is a function of the mind. It is necessary to coordinate the activities of body-mind. Vedanta Sara defines ego as abhimanatmika antakarana vritti, the appropriating function of the internal instrument. So when you are walking, you feel I am walking. When you are talking, you feel I am talking. When you're thinking, I am thinking. So this I, it coordinates activities of body mind. That's the only function of ego. But we become identified with it. I am this person. And so everything becomes invested in the glorification of this ego. The ego is like a ghost. If you search for the ego, at least intellect you can find, memory you can find, sense organs you can find, body you can find. Where is the ego? It's a ghost. And yet we think I am that one. And then all problems start. Egotism comes because of identification with ego, because of taking a trip in the car of ahamkara. So anahankara, disidentify with the ego. My real nature is consciousness. I'm trying to realize that ego is just a function of the mind. Sri Ramakrishna says the ego will not go away. All the functions of the mind are there, so the ego also will stay. Then he says, let the rascal remain as dasoham. I am the servant of the Lord. Whenever I feel I am this body and mind, then my attitude should be, the Lord is my master, I am the servant. Hanuman was once asked by Lord Rama, Sri Ramchandra asked Hanuman, what do you think of me? And Hanuman said, Deha buddhya dasoham. From the perspective of this body, Hanuman, I am the servant, you are Lord Rama, my master. This is my attitude towards you. Jiva buddhya tadangshaka. As a sentient being, as a conscious being who has come from many lifetime to lifetime, that one is part of the divine whole. I am your part. You are the whole. You are the totality. I am a tiny part of you. Then, Atma buddhya tu tvamevaham iti me nishchitamati. But from the perspective of the Atma, of consciousness, you and I are one reality. He says, you and Rama and I, Hanuman, we are one. Which one is correct? He says, iti me nishchitamati. This is my conviction. From the individual body perspective, I am the servant. Ego perspective, I am the servant. You are my Lord. From the Jivatma perspective, you are the whole, Paramatma, I am your part. And from Atma perspective, you and I are one reality. That's the ultimate perspective. Notice, the first one is Dvaita, dualistic approach. You are the Lord, I am your servant. Lord and servant are different. Dvaita, distinct. The second one, You are the whole, I am your part. Tvad Amshaka. Amsha Amshi Bhava is Vishishtadvaita. Sri Ramanujacharya's teachings of Vishishtadvaita. Recently in India, they inaugurated a huge statue of Sri Ramanujacharya. So Vishishtadvaita. Then you and I are one reality, one pure consciousness. That is Advaita Vedanta. But the first one, notice, you are the Lord, I am the servant. You are the master, I am the servant. So the ego, Sri Ramakrishna says, ego will be there, let it remain as the servant of God. Whenever if I say I should think of myself, this person, as servant of the Lord. Lord is the master, I am the servant. In reality, beyond this, my real nature is pure consciousness, Satchidananda. Okay. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshana darshanam. I will end with this today. Keep in mind the nature of this life is suffering. That was the first great realization of the Buddha. Four noble truths, that there is suffering, and there is a cause of suffering, there is an end of suffering, and there is a method to end suffering. Dukkha, Trishna, Nirvana, and the Ashtanga Marga. The four noble truths of the Buddha. But the first noble truth is suffering. The nature of life is suffering. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Dwell on the fact that the nature of life, birth, is suffering. No, the birth is a joyous occasion. Yes, but it introduces you to a life of suffering. Janma mrityu, death is suffering. It's the greatest fear of our lives, that is going to come to end. Old age is suffering. Young people don't realize it. But once you hit 40, you begin to realize things are going to go downhill. You just have to manage the decline, but it will decline. Vyadhi, disease is suffering. We all know suffering from the COVID. Entire world is under the grip of pandemic. People ask, why did this tragedy occur? So much death and suffering. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why did I deserve such a suffering? Is it my karma? You see, the Buddha's answer to this and Sri Krishna's answer to this also. This is the very nature of the world. So, Buddha said, Dukkham, Dukkham, Sarvam Dukkham. Anityam, Anityam, Sarvam Anityam. Impermanent, impermanent, all is impermanent. Then, Kshanikam, Kshanikam, Sarvam Kshanikam. Momentary, momentary, all is momentary. Then, Shunyam, Shunyam, Sarvam Shunyam. Empty, empty, all is empty. Therefore, Dukkham, Dukkham, Sarvam Dukkham. Sorrow, sorrow, all is sorrow. Ultimately. Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Prapya mama sukham lokam bhajasva mam. You have come to this unhappy world. You have been born in this world of unhappiness. The only real solution here, bhajasva mam, worship me. Worship Krishna as the avatar. That means worship God. Hold on to God in this world. That's the only surety. Everything else you have to withstand. Heat and cold, pain and pleasure, success and failure. How to withstand that? What to do with that? How to solve that problem? Krishna says to Arjuna in the second chapter, he says it can't be solved. Tan titikshasva. You have to bear it, forbear it. How will you forbear? How will you get the strength to forbear the problems of life? Bhajasva mam. Worship me, hold on to me, hold on to Bhagavan, hold on to the lotus feet of the Lord. So, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanudarshan. Keep in mind, when people come and complain, if God exists, why is there so much suffering? God, where has God said, in which scripture of the world, in Gita, Upanishad, Bible, Quran, where has God said that there will be no suffering? God has repeatedly said the very nature of the world is suffering. If you want to go beyond suffering, you have to hold on to God. At no point has God said, whether you hold on to me or you do not hold on to me, suffering will be there. God has not said that suffering will go away. Sorrow and suffering is the nature of the world. If you do not worship God, it will be there. If you worship God also, the sorrow and suffering will be there. But you will be safe from it. You will get the strength and peace of mind to rise above it. Life will continue. What is our past karma? That will keep on giving results. Although by the worship of God, by the grace of God, it is reduced, much reduced. Ma Sharada used to say, what is the use of doing japa? She said that what is its effect on past karma? She said that where a person's leg would have been cut off, that person will get a pinprick, little bit. So it is reduced, definitely. All right, we should stop here. We have got a glimpse of some of these powerful practices which will transform our lives. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. I think my plan was we'll cover as much as possible, and the remaining I will just read out the meanings of the other ones. 20 practices. So Indriyartheshu Vairagyam Anahankara Evacha Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanudarshan. We have done up to this. Then Asaktir Anabhishwanga Putradara Grihadishu. This detachment and this overcoming inordinate love of children, spouse, husband, wife, possessions. The greatest attachment is to these things, and one must practice some detachment there itself. This also points out, notice, then all this advice is not meant for monks only. It's meant for who has got children and wife and a home. So husband, wife, child, home, who is a householder. So Krishna is giving the advice to Arjuna. In the midst of family life, you must practice some detachment internally. Don't say to your husband or wife or children that I'm now detached from you. No, that is a cruel thing to say. But internally, have that I'm holding on to the Lord, and here I am doing my duty in this samsara. Nityam cha samachittatvam. It's ishtan ishto papattishu. Whatever happens in the world, pleasant or unpleasant, do not disturb the serenity of your mind, the quietness of your mind. Make it a practice to maintain a quiet mind. Mai chananya yogena bhaktir abhyabhicharini. One-pointed devotion to God. Practice this. Vivikta desha sevitvam arati janase sansadi. Go into retreat for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, either in some meditation retreat in a busy city like Singapore, at least in the corner of your room, sit quietly there. Arati jana samsadi. Develop a distaste for crowd, whether it is physical gathering of hundreds of people or virtual gathering, Facebook and social media and all that. There should be not a hankering for it, but an active dislike of such gatherings. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam. Continuous deliberate pursuit of Vedantic studies. Keep your mind on the goal, God realization, Brahma Jnana, Moksha, that is my goal. Etad Jnanam iti proktam, Ajnanam yadatu anyatha. All these practices make Jnana, enlightenment, possible. He calls them that these are Jnana. This is knowledge, means because it makes spiritual knowledge, enlightenment possible. The opposite of all of these 20 practices, the opposite is ignorance. It will trap you in samsara. So if you have questions, we can take up the questions.
Thank you, Swamiji. I think you've given such a practical speech, inspiring, yet very practical. There were some questions. Maybe I'll just throw one of that. You talked about Acharya Upasana. There was one who asked, how do I identify my teacher? Basically, how do I feel that that person is my Acharya?
Yes, whomever we learn from is an Acharya, either in worldly life or in spiritual life. So if you're studying Gita under a teacher, whoever it is your Acharya. Now, specifically the Guru, whom we mean the primary Guru in our tradition, is the one from whom you get the Ishta mantra. The teacher who initiates you into mantra japa, gives you a mantra and says, worship God in this form. This is your Ishta Devata. That is your primary Guru. That's the person who is your Guru. So you are a Shishya of that person. Now that will come by itself, we say, when the student is ready. But if you are eager, then you should go out deliberately and search and find out who can be the Guru. There are so many teachers. One basic characteristic, see, in the Upanishad says, Shrotriya, Akamahata, Brahmanishta. One must be learned in the tradition. One must know, say, Vedanta, for example. So you're going to a Vedanta teacher. So one must know that person must be learned in the tradition. Maybe if a person is very good, spiritual, but does not know the tradition, that person may genuinely be spiritual, but cannot help you. Knowing the tradition is necessary for transmitting it. So, Shrotriya. Then Akamahata. Literally, it means not damaged or destroyed by desire. So the person must have good character. One can be good without being spiritual, but one cannot be spiritual without being good. Morality, ethics is the basis of spirituality. One can be moral, ethical without being interested too much in spirituality, but one cannot be spiritual without being ethical. So always look for a guru who will have, definitely it is compulsory that guru's character must be good. The guru must not have any expectation from you except spirituality. Not there to, as they say here in America, out to make a quick buck, And then the third one is Brahmanishta. In the guru's own life, he or she, is this person centered in Brahman? Is this person totally 100% dedicated to spiritual life? Let us put it that way. It's not a part-time teacher of spirituality. So this must be reflected in the life of the guru. So these are the characteristics by which you will recognize the guru.
Thanks, Swamiji. There is another question I'm trying to understand. It is got to do with Swadharma. So we think that we have to act according to our dharma and who we are and what we do. But do we then change ourselves to be like what you said? We cannot react to things. We must be peaceful in mind. Let's flick off the anger and all of that, right? I know the anger and unhappiness are bad qualities, but there are some swadharmas that require you to act in a manner that might hurt others from their viewpoint. Then what do we do?
Then you must go ahead. All these practices are internal. Notice the answer is there in the Bhagavad Gita itself. What is Krishna encouraging Arjuna to do? To fight a war, the worst of things. And now we are in the midst of a war in Ukraine. It's the worst field of human endeavor, that actually going out and hurting and killing other people. Sometimes it may be necessary. In life, you want to fire somebody from a company. You want to discipline somebody or discipline a child also. It's unpleasant. But it is your dharma. At that point, you have to do it. But your internal attitude is something you have control over. There should not be any hatred. What Krishna is telling Arjuna is change internally. Keep on doing your duty outside. What you have to do, you have to keep on doing it. But internally, you should purify yourself. And then one can be spiritual in the midst of samsara also.
Thanks again. I like that part when you mentioned about to live with utmost simplicity and utter seriousness, and that we live an opposite life, complicated and quite shallow sometimes.
Yes.
Tell ourselves on a daily basis, okay, now I have to focus. I have to think about how to be simple. The life of competitive, the nature of life around us tends to make us a bit more complicated than we wish to be. So what is that daily sadhaka that we can do?
The practice of simplicity is also very simple. That, bring one's mind, speech, and action in alignment. What I think, what I say, and what I do must be in alignment. It's not that everything that I think I have to say it, or that is craziness. But I should not be consciously, deliberately deceitful. I'm thinking one thing, saying another thing, doing another thing. Then one cannot be spiritual. One must bring these things in alignment. That's a good practice to have. That leads to simplicity, actually. So be simple and honest in dealings with others. Be a little fearless. Suppose we feel that it may harm us, be a little fearless there. Nothing will ultimately harm us. In any case, this particular body is going to die one day, very soon. Why be so careful about what little things are happening on a day-to-day basis? Much better to hold on to a principle. So once you're simple and once we are a little honest about ourselves, life becomes more joyful, more free, more relaxed.
Yeah, one final question. I have to apologize to everybody in all the platforms. There's not enough time to ask all of the questions, but just one final one. This is the first installment. We're going to meet Swamiji again. We can always ask him. You spoke about the body, mind, and ego. You said that all of that is real. We can touch ourselves, we can think, and we know there is an ego. And we know that we should de-link ourselves from all of this. We know that in mind. But it becomes such a challenge to do it. So for someone who can just, once again, on a daily basis, what is it that we should remind ourselves that we are not the body, mind, and ego?
Ultimately, from an Advaitic perspective, the whole world, including the body, including the mind and ego, all are not real actually. They are all appearances. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya.
Yeah.
But to go there, first of all, we have to step back a little from this body-mind complex. Step back means disidentify, to feel that we are not it. So what we do on a day-to-day basis are these very practices. Amanitvam, Adambhitvam, Ahimsa, Kshanti, Rajyavam. These are actually practices which we can do in a day-to-day basis. Notice all of them help you to disidentify from the body-mind. Where Krishna says at the end, Ajnanam yadato anyatha. Whatever is the opposite of these practices is ignorance. That leads us to samsara, being more involved in samsara. Just imagine, the opposite of amanitvam is manitvam. The opposite of adhambitvam is dambha. What does it actually do? This arrogance, this feeling that I am great and better than others, it is leading to more identification with the mind. It's leading to more identification with the body. So this disidentification of the body is provided by these practices. Every moral practice that we do, when we do things which are good, when we say things which are good, and think noble and enlightened, noble thoughts, moral thoughts, all the time we are working towards this disidentification or this freedom from this body-mind complex. The body-mind will be there, we can use it, but you're not trapped. That does not define us. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's instructive for everyone who's listening. These are from chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita. I think verses somewhere 7 to 12. All of that Swamiji spoke about. Just a few more minutes on behalf of Gita Jayanti Committee Group. Allow me to thank the following for being instrumental in making today's event possible and all of the events that we're going to be looking forward to. Foremost, our sincere appreciation goes to Swami Sarvapriyananda for joining us from there. It's early morning there, and although it's the evening here. Prasad Jayachandran for delivering the welcome address, Srimati Padmini Ji for invocation prayer, and Sri Sunil Ji probably will be chanting the concluding prayer if he's here. If not, Padmini Ji will do that. Audience on all the platforms, thank you very much for being here. Volunteers working behind the scene, other participating organizations. Many organizations have come together to support Gita Jayanti, and many of the representatives are here. So thank you very much also. Do switch on your videos, because we're going to take a photo of all who are here, at least at the Zoom platform, after the concluding prayer. And so that we all can remember this occasion. So now I invite Pandit Sunilji, is he here, to recite the concluding prayer? If not, I can't see everyone. If not, we will invite Sunilji is here. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ.
Thank you, Sunilji. For everyone, our next talk by Swamiji is on Saturday, 4th of June, 2022. Now, just don't go yet, just a photo taking. Everyone on the video if possible. And we go to Krishna Kumarji, we go to gallery mode and you take the photos. Before I conclude, all smile, please. Okay. Thank you all for joining us both here in Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook. We look forward.
One more minute. Actually,
Yes. Oh.
let me take one more. Everybody look inside, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Krishnaji. So we look forward to the next talk. Swamiji, once again, it's a blessing, an honor for us to host you today. It's a great talk. We shall go and listen to this again. There is so much to learn from the talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Stay safe, everybody. Stay safe.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you all. Good night. Have a great weekend. Bye.